Merilyn.
And I'm Adriano.
And here we are, Season 2, Episode 6.
Of Real Estate Wealth and Overall Health. And we have a fantastic show today. We have a special guest. We're not going to reveal that yet, but we do have a special guest today. But again, moving forward, like we always do, we first have to tell our listeners, what we saw in the last month.
That's right.
So it's like end of May up until, end of June here. I've seen the market kind of change a little bit. I'm not sure about yourself, but what have you been seeing in the last month or so?
I'd actually say that we're in a drifting market. So we went from, where it was busy, offer dates were working out, and now we're actually seeing, not with only our own inventory, with others that our buyers are interested in it or that we've shown the properties where offer dates are actually not being successful. So in that case, the property, actually I'm just showing one today that had an offer date last night. So what I did is I called this first thing this morning and the listing agent answered, and I just made sure that it was still available and what the price would be, because often they usually increase the price and they actually are just holding the price at the asking price that they had it previously when it was an offer date. So we're seeing that there's definitely things have slowed down a little bit more than they were. Like, it's no longer the spring market. I think that people who are hoping to get in on that time frame, it's a little bit they're a little bit late to the party for that. But there's still really good opportunity for buyers out there. And also, I think, again, if you have a product that not much inventory comes in a certain pocket, or it's something that's unique, you're definitely going to be, able to sell. It's just taking a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I remember last episode we were saying that the offer dates were working, and at that time they were.
That's right.
They kind of are. Like, we've had offer dates in the past month, and we were getting offers, except the offers we're getting aren't where the expected price should be. So we just relist it because some people try to, get it for a cheap price or a deal.
And not only the expected price, I think even just where the value should be. So it's like we're really seeing buyers are really trying to get a deal out there.
Yeah, market value. The other thing I'm seeing too is I just feel like, do you think it's like a traditional July and August where things slow down, or do you feel like tariffs and, the fact that the rates didn't go down? Like, I feel like, personally, I feel like a lot of people are just kind of waiting and just seeing what's going on. I don't know if it has to do with the months of the year per se, is so much what's going on in the economy and what's going on in the States. What do you think?
I think it's actually a combination of things. Like, for example, even myself, I was sometimes, I guess, because I'm in the industry, I'm thinking of buying, and then I'm thinking, well, if I bought, which I did during COVID times, then I might have paid, an inflated price, where if I can't even sell after disposal fees of what I paid, then it just doesn't make sense for me to sell. So I think it's like there's a combination of reasons. There are some people that are still a little bit hesitant or uncertain about their job security. So I think there's different reasons. However, we're always seeing people that are still, they do have to, families are needing to upsize. We've had a lot of those lately. I think our last 5 deals, we did just 5 or 6 in the month of May. I think a good 4 out of the 5 were all actually in that boat where they were upsizing. Families are growing, our client's pregnant, they're planning to have their second child or third. So they just needed more space.
Yeah, that's kind of the main thing we've been preaching all year. I feel like ever since the market changed a bit, there are things selling, there are buyers and sellers out there, and things are moving. When you look at, how many properties get sold in a month, we're not at all-time highs, but things are moving. And it's because it's people who are moving out of necessity, right? Upsizers, downsizers, people who have to move for work. What you're not seeing are the investors. Those people are kind of, or the everyday investor. I think the people with a lot of money are waiting for times like this. They're just waiting to get deals on properties, and this is where, and pounds, and this is where you can get it. But your everyday investor, like, your buddy or a family or a relative who wants to buy a second condo or something like that as an investor, that's where you're kind of seeing a really big difference in how it was maybe a few years back, besides rates and everything like that. So.
That and what's also interesting too, I've recently noticed there's been a little bit of a trend. We're getting a lot of our buyers are also looking for the option where they can maybe make some money. So they want a duplex, or they want that secondary suite, whether it's for the possibility of renting it out, or even for a mother-in-law to live with them. So we are actually seeing a lot of people are also looking at again, this comes back to if there's, that worry if, income in the future may not be consistent, then what are other ways that I can help offset that so that my expense is not going to, cause me that much stress, right?
Yeah, and so we see that, especially in Brampton. We have a listing right now, and like the ones with basement apartments are really selling for significantly more and a lot quicker, and the ones that aren't, they're just taking a little more time. So that's kind of the trend, I think, in the last even 5 or 6 years with a lot of houses. It helps basement apartments help them qualify for more money when you buy, and also can bring in that income, like you were saying. So that's kind of what we've been seeing in the last little month. But it's not doom and gloom. People are still moving. It's just taking a little more time. Buyers, this is your chance to really get a good deal. It may change even by September, so keep that in mind.
And then you don't want to get priced out. That's the other thing.
Yeah. So I guess moving on now to the next thing, and this is something that we've been dealing with, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are listening who might be, their house might be on the market right now, and they're expecting, one thing, and then it's kind of just been sitting there a bit. So what I wanted to ask you was, what would be your advice to maybe sellers who put their property on the market, they thought it might sell quickly, and now, it's been sitting for a while, they're not getting showings. What are your thoughts about that, or what suggestions, or what are the reasons for that? What do you think?
I'd have to say, definitely call us. That would be number one.
We could help them with that. Sure, we could have a good talk. But
I'd say that right now, your best shot is when you come live onto the market. So you want to look your best, right? In terms of actually right now, one of our listings that we had, it was really cool because we had some feedback from whether it was our assistants that came or some friends through the property. We just did a rental project, and their feedback, which, just lit me up, was, oh my gosh, this is one of the best staging projects I think you guys have ever done. And I was like, wow, because we really took that little bit of extra time and effort. And my goodness, there was so many last minute Amazon orders and buy, an arrangement of fake flowers and a curtain. Exactly. Amazon is still coming to the house. So we really put in a lot of effort and extra attention to detail, whether it was just little things. Like, you want to make sure when people come through the home, you want it smelling at least clean, as opposed to smelling. And look, I have 3 of them now, guys. I don't even know how this happened. One day I woke up and I just had 3 pets in my house.
That's not including the person you're living with either.
And having said that, you just want it not smelling like pets or not smelling like smoke. So you want to just, when people are coming through, they want to envision the space that they can live in it and enjoy it and make memories, create good times. So having said that, this goes back to just making sure that the space is inviting and it looks good and it smells good, and declutter is a big one, depersonalize. So my suggestion would be just making sure that even sometimes a little thing, like on one of them, we moved the couch when you walked in was like blocking, and there was a railing. We moved it so it opened up the space, and then everyone that had been there prior that knew the property was just, wow, this is so much bigger. Like, it felt, because the width of the room was, let's say, like 6 feet, and then the depth was like 16 or 20 feet. So it was a big difference when you put the TV on the longer wall and then the couch along the back wall. So just sometimes you arranging furniture and just making sure it really shows well, and the space shows that it's utilizes spacious.
There's a way to live and a way to sell.
Exactly.
But what I was also saying is that if you're on the market right now and you feel like your house shows well and it's staged well and you're not getting the showings or you're not selling, and you have to look at the days on the market, because maybe in your neighborhood, like 2 months is average, maybe 3 weeks is average, maybe 4 months is average, right? You got to see what's selling in your neighborhood. But if you're on longer than what the average is, and you're not getting showings. If you're getting showings and you're not sold, you're overpriced, basically, because you're getting the showings, it's just people aren't buying what you're selling. But if you're sitting on the market and you're not getting showings and it's over the days, it could be price. It could be, I would take a look at what's going on in the area to see if anything else is selling. If nothing else is selling, it's maybe just a slower time. If everyone else is selling and you're not, it's probably a price thing. So it usually comes down to price if everything else is good, right? What are the 3 things?
The 3 things are price, location, and condition.
So if you're in a good, school district or a good location and your property shows well, 99% of the time it's your price. So just keep that in mind, if you are sitting on the market, review all those things and then make a decision moving forward. So I guess those are our thoughts on that. I guess the next thing to talk about so going into July and August, a lot of people are like, oh, that's it's the summer market. It's slow. People are going away. Agents go away on vacation. It's not a good time to sell. People are traveling. I'm going to wait till the fall to list my property.
Yes.
Is it a bad time to maybe list a property in the summer, or what are your thoughts on that? Or should people wait? What do you think?
I think one of two things. Again, if I've already purchased a property, then definitely I need to sell. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to be selling because then there are additional costs if I have to carry to and bridge and that sort of thing. However, if I can wait till September because I just haven't found anywhere to go yet, I personally would wait till September, because I think in July and August, not only what I think, what I hear from all my clients of being, in this business for 20 years now, is a lot of people are on summer mode. So the kids are out of school and, they're traveling, they're going to camp, or they're going to, Algonquin Park, they're going to cottages, they've rented places, they're traveling around US to Disneyland or to Europe. So if you can wait till September, ideally, that probably would be better time. Having said that, there are also different reasons for wanting to buy and sell. So ultimately it goes back to that. So if I've already sold and now I need to buy, or vice versa, I've now purchased and I'm committed and I'm in a binding agreement, then I have to sell. So now would be the time to put it out there. And if your house is not listed, we can't get it sold. I mean, although we have done some exclusive off-market deals, those are just a lot more challenging for sure.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts too are you got to look at, sometimes if you're in an area where there's not much inventory, you may want to try July, because if everyone has the mindset, let's wait till September, there might be more inventory and more competition. So, if you're about to list a property and there's 5 or 6 or 10 other houses like yours in your neighborhood, maybe see if they sell off, or a few of them sell off. You don't want to be the 11th and have one more to choose from, right? Unless you have a unique selling feature on your house. But if you're in certain neighborhoods where like maybe one house comes up a month and they sell right away, and it's July or August, and you maybe have like a pool or something that really shows very well in the summertime, you could maybe try and list it. And if you're not getting what you want, then you take it off the market, wait a few weeks, and go back on in September. So again, there's different factors, right, that comes into play there. But those are a few things to look at, because it's not always bad to list in the summer. It's predominantly better to list in the spring market is the best, and then the fall. But people do sell, and especially if you have features that work really well in the summertime, it might be good to highlight those in July and August. So just some thoughts there. So I guess now the final question that you wanted me to ask, and I think a lot of people are interested about, is like right now a lot of builders have stopped, bigger builders have stopped producing or selling condos because there's a lot of inventory.
That's right.
So maybe what's your advice? Is now a good time to buy a condo?
I'd say it is. We definitely have noticed that there is a lot of inventory, so therefore buyers do definitely have a lot of options and choices. And also the price points have come down. We do work with a lot of buyers, and we're seeing that they're getting good deals. And not only that, I'm also noticing where usually there's usually sometimes 3 or 4 times it'll go back and forth between an offer and then a sign back, and then the buyer will then counter. And then again, I'm noticing that with condos, actually, if you make a reasonable offer, it might only be 1 sign back and then accepted. I think that even sellers are realizing that, hey, right now is not the best time, and if we can even get an offer and unload, let's just they're now realizing that it's more of a buyer's market. So there's definitely opportunity if you're a first-time buyer, that's your price point. I think now is a good time to buy a condo for sure. Yeah,
and I guess that goes to the fact too that I feel like people are pricing it more aggressively. So the reason why you don't have to go maybe back and forth so much is it's already at a really good price, so you kind of go in to move it a little bit, but it's pretty good. And also we're noticing as well, because we're in a lot of groups as well, that there's a lot of people we won't get into that in detail, but there are a lot of people with assignment sales that they're willing to just say, hey,
you know what, I'm going to forfeit my deposit of $100,000 and just take over. And already, you know, if they purchased it for 8, you can buy it for 7 because that 100,000 is already there, and you just take over the contract. So I think that there's a lot of options right now.
Yeah.
Prices definitely, as we all know, have come down.
Yeah.
And depending on your situation, it might be a good time to buy a condo. If you're looking at condos, that's a whole different podcast where we could talk about pros and cons and all the different options. But a lot of our clients, they like the condo lifestyle because it's easy, lock up, maintenance almost free, not in terms of fees, but in terms of not having to worry about interlock and grass and shoveling snow, and they can just pick up and leave and lock their doors and not have to worry, right? So it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of buyers, like the incentives the government is giving is to try to push right now, I feel, the condo market, because especially in Toronto, like if you want to own outside of the GTA, then that money will go a lot further. But in terms of GTA ownership, a lot of first-time buyers are going to fall into a condo for their first, purchase, and there's nothing wrong with that. Most times, condos are 3 to 7 years as a first-time buyer, and then at that point, you either rent it out or you sell it and move into something bigger. So I always look at it like, if you can make the payments, if you're renting and it's going to not cost you much more than rent, or even if it's costing a little bit more, but there's forced savings there, you're building equity and no one's going to boot you out. You can decorate it, you can do whatever you want. And I think it's a good time to get in, because as this inventory goes away, and it will, because they're not building stuff, there is going to be a crisis when that happens, who knows, but because they're not building stuff, inventory will start to lessen, and then it'll thin, and then the value will go up. And these are the times that buyers will make good choices, that when you come to us in 5 years to sell, we're going to say, hey, you made a great choice. You ended up making X amount of dollars on your property. Now we can get you into something bigger. So, those are my thoughts too.
That's great.
Awesome. So we're here with our special guest, Michelle IEZZI. She's a barrister and solicitor in the GTA area. We worked with her a lot. She's an amazing person, great lawyer, and our clients like her. So, we got to use her. We got to use her. She's amazing. But we have her on here to talk about a few things that come up on a day-to-day basis in real estate. And, some of them are myths, and we'd like to get your opinion on what you see and what the reality of some of the things are. So I guess one of the first things that comes to mind is, once a deal firms up, okay, a lot of people say this, can you back out of it? And it's specifically what I've been seeing lately in the last few years is pre-construction. A lot of people bought a few years ago. They firmed up on the deal. They thought they were going to make a ton of money. Then things changed. Prices have come down. Maybe they can't close on it. Doesn't make sense. Can they get out of the deal? Because I've had clients, I'm just going to walk away. The builder can figure it out.
So easy, just walk away.
Just walk away. They don't mind. So what's the reality of it?
On a good day, you could walk away and the seller could be like, yeah, sure, just leave and let's call it quits. No, but after an agreement is firm, you're stuck there. So if you want to walk away, you can by all means walk away, but you're going to forfeit your deposit. And then the seller can always sue you for whatever damages that are incurred, I should say.
Okay.
So, and it depends on the market too. So you might have purchased at a really good time. The price would have been amazing. And then you walk away from it, and now the seller can't even get near what you offered. So now there's going to be a big...
So they would sue for damages?
Yeah, of course. And now the seller still has to list. You can't just sit back and do nothing as a seller. You have to mitigate your damages. You have to relist that property. You have to make an effort to try and minimize the losses. But essentially, as a buyer, you don't want to be sitting there waiting to see what happens. I think in practice, what usually happens is, one, the deposit is forfeited. And that's it. They'll sign a mutual release and walk away, because the seller, usually it's not a long closing, so you can resell that property and you make the same amount, and then plus you have that deposit. It's just like a little extra money.
Okay.
But the second thing, sometimes the seller will say, I'm going to keep the deposit, and then they'll settle on an amount that they'll just agree on. Like, I don't know, maybe the deposit was $20,000, and the seller will say, give me $60,000 and we'll just settle it here, or whatever, something reasonable, right? And then they both walk away in that respect. I think that's the most common thing to do, and that I've seen. I think, but mostly I think it's just forfeit the deposit.
So I guess that's one of the things that, like, as realtors, we're taught that a deposit makes a difference. Now, at the end of the day, you could have $1 deposit. You just need consideration for the deal to close. But the reason why we usually ask traditionally for 5%, there's a few reasons. Sometimes it says to cover commissions, other times. But the biggest thing is the bigger the deposit, the harder it is, right, to walk away from a deal. And if they do walk away, you have a bigger amount of money in a trust account that can go to the, to the seller, to the damaged party, correct? So that's one of the reasons. But now as I switch, because that's more on the resale side, but when you get into pre-construction condos, now, I know that if this was 2 or 3 years ago and someone wanted to probably walk away from pre-construction and the condo's value went up 100 grand, the builder would probably say, yeah, no worries, because they could sell it for a higher price. In this market now, where there's a lot of people where the prices are lower, people can't close on it, and it's not like 1 or 2 or maybe 5 people not being able to close. You probably see, some of the builders, there's much more. Are the builders now more strict on, no, we're going to do even like a class action, or we're going to go after each individual, or how are you seeing it right now on the pre-con side?
I mean, I'm not seeing class actions because I don't think, in my experience, I'm not seeing this happen left, right, and center. I'm sure it does happen for sure, but again, like if it's a good market, yeah, the builder might say, you know what, yeah, when they purchase this, they purchase it for like 300 grand. Now I can get like $1 million for the same condo. Yeah, it's to their benefit to walk away. But I mean, I think the condo market, in my experience, probably you have declined, right? So from when they purchased to now, they're not going to get anywhere near. And I've actually seen this happen recently and over the past couple months, where the purchaser was like, I want to get out of this deal. I can't even, sometimes you can't even get financing because the property is not worth what you paid for it. And so, I mean, all you can do is really try and assign it if you want to mitigate your damages, right? And usually the builder has no problem allowing you to assign the agreement. But if you're going to walk away and you think the builder is just going to let you go off scot-free, no, like they're going to, of course, want to keep your deposit. And then when you're dealing with a builder, you're dealing with a lot of money, right? It's not like a single little, lawyer or one little one little yippy person who's doing these new builds. They have money backing them, and they have no problem suing you for the damages if they can't sell that or, resell it for the same price after, right? So, I mean, your best bet is either to suck it up and find the money, borrow it from a family if you need to, just to close the deal, assign it if you can, but like, I don't suggest walking away.
And I agree. Like at the end of the day, we tell people, look, if you have to even get a private, if the numbers, because the numbers don't work even if you rent it, but try to close on the deal. I know you're going to have to pay, some of the HST on there, or if it's, not your primary residence, there's all those costs, but you have a better chance too to sell it once the building is registered, because you can put it on MLS. A lot of times, like 99% of the time, the builder won't allow you to go on MLS, so it's hard to assign it. It's just a very tough situation. So we always try to say, look, if you've bought something, whether it was a good or bad investment, until you sell, you really haven't made money or lost. But try to close on it however you can. There are mortgage brokers that can find you money if you need it, and just kind of suck it up for a bit, and then try to reevaluate, and then try to sell it without getting sued and losing a deposit. So that would be my suggestion. I feel you're saying the same thing there. There. So that's awesome. And if you do have questions, you can always type at the bottom of this, or you can reach out to myself or Michelle, and then we'd be happy to get back to you on that if you have further questions on that. I guess the next thing that I wanted to go into is there's a clause that I put into all my agreements, and I know a lot of agents do it standard. It's basically that chattels and fixtures will be in good working order upon completion of the sale of this transaction, or something along those lines, meaning that your dishwasher, your washer, your dryer, everything's going to be in good working order. Okay, and that's great. And most of the times it's good. Everyone kind of closes and everything's great. I usually go a day or two before to test all the appliances, because you don't really do that in a home inspection. And even if you do, it could be 2 months later. So if there is an issue with like a washer or a dryer or a stove not working, I'd like to know your opinion on if it's done before. How would you handle that? And let's say, versus say someone closes and then they go in and they move in and they realize that the stove doesn't work. How do you deal with both of those situations, or what is your advice on those situations?
So I think when people put in that clause, in my opinion, they think it's like this iron clause where they're all good. They can like they have a remedy, so they don't have to close if the washer is not fixed or this and that. And unfortunately, in practice, it's not how, what happens. Generally speaking, if something were to happen before closing, what I usually do is I'll contact the seller's lawyer immediately, and I'll say, hey, this XYZ, whatever, the washer, the dishwasher, the sink, something is broken. Please have your client repair that immediately and send us a video or some type of proof, or the client can check it on their next inspection. Or we're going to request money to be held back until we get somebody to come in, assess how much it's going to cost to repair, blah, blah, blah. And normally, because if it's very obvious, like, okay, before closing, the dishwasher doesn't work. You can't even, the seller can't even argue, hey, we closed, it was working for me fine before we closed. There's no argument at that point. So normally, yes, the lawyer will either will do like a holdback or maybe an abatement of the purchase price. So maybe they'll take off like $100, $500, whatever
it costs, right?
Just so that they can just walk away after. Or the seller might repair it like themselves, right? And that's fine. Now, let me just stop that for 1 second and just say, normally I always do tell people, like you said, do the inspections. Don't, if you have 3 inspections, or I should say visits.
Yeah, 2
don't
visits.
Don't miss them. Like, do them and test things. Not everything can be tested, of course, but anything you can test it out. Just because it's obviously a lot easier to deal with money and holdbacks before closing. After closing, it just becomes me trying to, say the same thing to the lawyer. Oh, this and this is broken. Please have your client send us the bill, or we're going to send you a bill and send us money for this, or have your clients repair it. It becomes a little more challenging because a lot of times after closing, the sellers, they disappear.
They have their money, they're gone. It's like,
they're gone.
It's like,
it takes them 50 years to respond to the email. I guess I can say I'm fortunate in that when this has happened, and it has, usually the sellers will be cooperative and they'll actually go in and check what's going on. They'll try and fix it, or they'll send their own repair guy there. So it's usually okay. But having said that, there's also a lot of fights about whether something is considered good working order. For example, you have a fridge with the water, what's it called? The ice thing.
Yeah, the ice maker.
It's not working. And the seller will be like, but the fridge is still working, so it's a good working order and we're not going to give you anything. Okay, so what are we going to do?
Those are fun for the realtors, because it ends up the lawyer's like, can you guys just figure it out between the realtors and figure it out?
No, but like in those situations, or for example, I just did a closing and the drain wasn't, the toilet was draining or filling up very slow. The faucet or the sink wasn't draining, and the lawyer was pretty much just like, well, I mean, it still technically flushes. There's not really an issue. And
that could be a small thing, or that could be like a major thing.
I know. But it was like the day before closing. So unfortunately, we didn't have time to verify. But in those situations, you can't not close, right? As much as I'm sure purchasers will be like, well, we're just not going to close, and that's that.
The knob is not turning. I don't want to close on the place. Well, no.
You have to still close. Unfortunately, something not working, a dishwasher or something not working that's small is not going to be grounds to not close. You'd have to still close. Then, thank goodness for that warranty, you can still go to court, like a small claims, and make an argument to get compensation. Now, I think most sellers are probably smart, and they're like, that's like, it's going to be $100 fix. Good luck spending the time and money to go to court. I don't think they're going to actually do it. And they risk it, right? Which I think is so stupid. But I always tell people, hey, just if it's worth it, go to court, sue them, right? Like,
well, that's happened. But at the end of the day, like, a lot of people are like, what, they're going to take me to court, waste all this time for $300 or $400.
Saying,
and most times, like, and I always tell seller or buyers, guys, like, when you move into a house, like, even if it's whatever, like, there's going to be stuff that you're going to need, that you're going to find as soon as they move stuff. Maybe there's cords behind, like, there's going to be stuff. So don't expect it to be 100%. There's always, you leave some room for minor fixes and stuff, because you're not going to test everything, right? That's the reality. But basically what you're saying here is, if there's an issue, it's much easier to get something done before the money's been transferred to the seller. As soon as the money's been transferred, good luck. He's off. They're off to the races, right?
And I can't tell you how many times it's been after closing, because then the purchaser will move in, and that's when you're able to use everything. You're able to use the dishwasher, the washing machine. And then how many times I've gotten emails, oh, the dishwasher is leaking, or the washing machine doesn't work. And then it's all always, without fail,
Yeah.
the seller comes back and says, that's weird. I tested everything before closing and it was working fine. And if that's the case, then technically they did meet the warrant. Like they gave you the warranty. It was on, because the warranty usually applies. It has to work before closing. As long as it worked on or before closing, that's it. If it breaks down a day or two later, that's not their problem anymore,
it's not
right?
It's your problem, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I tell people. So I guess out of all this is like, use your visits, right?
Yes.
Use it and close to the end, unless they're moving that day, but try to go as close as you can, because things could break over time. And I guess if there is an issue, try to get it resolved prior to closing, because if not, once the money's done, it's very hard to get it done.
Or if you have to close or you don't get to test certain things out, when you move in, like the day or two after, it's your house, start washing dishes, using the appliances. Because if you wait like 2 weeks later and you say, oh, I didn't want to say anything, but the dishwasher is not working, then you're leaving yourself at this really poor argument where it's like, well, why didn't you say anything like a week or 2 weeks ago, right? So,
or did it work and then it broke and now you're coming back to us, right?
So if you can like try right after closing, you test whatever you need to do, take videos, take pictures, don't just like leave it as is and call me, be like, oh, it's not working. You need proof, because ultimately, if we can't resolve it between the seller and the buyer or the lawyers, you're going to potentially have to go to small claims, and you need some type of evidence or, proof of what's going on, right?
Quickly, this wasn't even in one of the questions, but I had a deal once where someone left a piano in the basement or like a pool table, because I know those are tough to move. And they're like, oh, I thought they would like the piano in the basement. Oh, yeah, sure. What happens in this situation? Because I had someone move in and they're like, the guys never took the piano out. We don't want this. And it was day of, like, just in a minute or less. How do you resolve this thing?
So it's funny. Every time I'm signing up sellers, I always say, you have to get vacant possession. And I always say, please make sure all your crap in the house is gone, unless it's specifically in the agreement. Don't leave things there thinking that the purchaser will want it. And if that's the case, call them and find out before. In this case, for the piano or big items like play sets or whatever it is, usually what happens is I would tell the lawyer, hey, your client left this piano here. Please make sure your clients, pick it up or whatever needs to be done. And if they just leave it, then ultimately the client would have to contact like a junk removal company.
Or a piano, because with pianos, I know you specifically have to take it apart properly.
They're gonna be incurring costs, right? And again, you can pass that on to the seller, right?
It's still a little bit better. Like if you went in a day before and you're like, hey, they're moved out, but the piano's still in the basement. That's got to go too. Type thing,
Although technically for a piano, you can sell it and make money. So I don't know if I complain.
It depends where it's located. For me, get it out of there. I don't need that. Tune the thing. So that's great. So a lot of good advice there. So going on to the next thing. So even for myself, because I've bought properties and I kind of don't know exactly everything so title insurance, right? Do you get title insurance on just houses, or are they on condos, or what is it on everything?
Yeah, everything.
And title insurance to me was just to ensure that the title, like the property, like the length, the width, and all that stuff, was basically what you're buying is what's on Geo Warehouse, and that it's not less. But I know there's more to it than that. So what's the purpose of title insurance, and maybe what are a few of the really good benefits of getting the title insurance?
Okay. So first of all, in Ontario, it's not technically mandatory to get title insurance. However, if you get a mortgage, which most people do, then it's usually required by the lender.
Okay.
I don't even think I would touch a deal if the client was like, I'm not getting title insurance, just because it just causes potential for claims down the line. Oh, you missed this. Oh, you didn't search that. You didn't let me know this. So I'm like, it's just honestly the best thing to do these days.
Okay.
So anyways, ultimately with title insurance, it pretty much protects you against unknown defects. Anything that you didn't know before closing, the title insurance company will be like, I'm not going to help you out with this, essentially. But usually what's required is either title insurance or a lawyer's opinion on title. So if I were to give you an opinion on title to make sure you're getting good, clean title, I would have to get an updated survey, right? I'd have to examine the survey. I'd have to do a building search, a fire search, a zoning search to make sure everything's in compliance. The cost already alone for those, it can be like crazy. I don't know how much a survey is. It could be over $1,000.
Oh, it could be over a new one, at least over $1,000.
And for, I mean, title insurance is about, it could be up to $1,000. I usually don't go too much over $1,000.
Is that a tiered system too for title insurance?
It's based on the price of the house, right? We don't. I wish I could set it.
That's okay.
Set it and forget it, but no, it's based on the price of the house, kind of like land transfer tax too. So essentially, with title insurance, it'll insure over specific issues that we would have had to search before if we didn't have title insurance. So instead of me getting a survey to see if everything is built, within the boundaries and if there's any encroachments, title insurance essentially will waive that and say, listen, we'll protect you, or we will insure over you having to do that. They won't require me to do like a building search, a fire search, a zoning search, any of that, unless you're dealing with like a duplex or like something over 2 units, a duplex, triplex, multiplex, whatever. Then we'd have to do additional searches, or they won't cover the additional unit. Which is, I don't deal too much with the duplexes, but essentially what it also can protect you from is, let's say you're purchasing a house, like a survivor from what's it called, an estate. And then you move into the property, and then there's a dispute. An heir comes out of thin air,
like from a probate,
and they're like, hey, that was supposed to be, I was supposed to be a part of the sale, blah blah blah, or that house was supposed to be left to me, or something happens, or if there's fraud, right? Because nowadays with all the Zoom calls and the AI, like fraud is getting very rampant now. So there could very well be a claim for fraud, right? If that came up as a buyer, what do you want? You don't want to just walk away from your house and be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Title insurance will pay for the legal claims, will fight the fight for you. And if you do end up losing the house because it is a valid claim, they will reimburse you for your loss.
So what, your money that you put in, or in moving, it's like whatever your expenses are?
Whatever your expenses are for this. And then so it pretty much, if you move into a property and there's an encroachment on somebody else's property and you're ordered by the government to remove it, anything like that, they'll cover the costs of that, especially if you didn't know that it was built like that. And I think after people are buying and selling, like people don't know. You know?
Especially now with some of these houses 100 years old, like even if you do get an old survey, it's kind of like, who knows what the heck's been done, if there's garages or other things put on it. So it makes sense.
Sometimes there's like even boundary disputes. So I've worked at a firm actually where the neighbors started arguing about where the property lines are, and the person, they were 7 years into the purchase. So again, title insurance is the one-time fee. It's not like a normal insurance company where you're paying monthly. You pay it on closing, and you always have it while you own the property. So years and years later, if something comes up, you can still make a title and claim with your title insurance company. So anyways, the title insurance company paid for the survey, and if you actually purchased a property less or smaller than what you thought, they usually will reimburse you for the difference of the value that you lost.
Oh, so like if you thought you were buying a house, like the lot was maybe an extra 20 feet, but then you realize it's actually not. They'll take the value of that land or whatever you paid and do a calculation and give you money back for that. So it is.
Even after you close, there could be like construction liens or some type of lien registered on the property. They'll usually cover or deal with that for you. Unpaid utility charges or taxes, I say, if they form a lien on the property. So I'll give you an example. I have a client who, I guess they renovated the property that they're living in. And recently there was a government order registered on title because there was like a building or zoning compliance issue or whatever. They have to put some railings here and there or make a window bigger. If we had closed and that was registered, I mean, the purchaser doesn't want to be responsible for that, right? That would be something that you would have to deal with title insurance company. Or if there was renovations and a contractor puts a lien on the property as soon as you close, it's not your responsibility as the purchaser, right? And you're not going to know if you did work on my property. How's the lawyer supposed to know this?
Exactly, right? Especially if it's within a short time. So when you're closing and all the lawyers' fees, you see title insurance, you're like, what the heck? Why are they? I don't need another thing after you're paying land transfer tax and everything. It is worth getting, and they're looking out for your best interest, the lawyer, for that, right? And
even the lenders too, right? If something does happen with fraud or you do lose your property because of any dispute, the lender doesn't want to lose their mortgage, right? They give you the money for that, so of course they want someone there to protect them, to have to go to court, make the claim, and pay them their money back, right? So
Yes.
they're not suffering as well. So that's why they'll require it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of interesting information. That's a lot of stuff. I've been doing this 20 years and I didn't even know a lot of this stuff.
You learn stuff all the time.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm always learning. So next thing I wanted to talk about quickly, and I know we can get in as long and as short as we want on something like this, but for like, when you're looking at condos and a status certificate, right? Because I know status certificates, it's sometimes subjective unless there's something major there, right? But when you receive a status certificate, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of lawyers are like, I'm not an accountant. Like, you're not going to look sometimes at the financials per se to see if their future projections are going to all work out. That's not really your job. I mean, you could, but I feel like, what do you look for in a status certificate to determine if a building is, it's good to go through? I kind of, what are a few things that would stick out to say, I don't know, that might not be the best, or at least bring it to someone's attention?
Right. I mean, I wouldn't just throw the budget aside. You still want to kind of glance over it anyways to see if there's like a significant deficit or a surplus, just to kind of see. It kind of gives you an idea how the property is getting managed,
how the management is.
But okay, so if we're talking about the status certificate, first and foremost, you're making sure you want to see what the person owns versus what's in the agreement. Are they conveying in the agreement what's in the actual status certificate? Maybe they think they own one parking and they actually own two, right? So we have to obviously look to see that those are matching. You want to see if they have been paying their common expenses, right? You don't want them to have been in default. It could form a lien and it's a headache. You want to know how much the common expenses are. You want to know if there's been any litigation on the condominium. Do they have insurance on the property? And then check the insurance to make sure it's actually active.
Up to date, right?
You want to know if there's any, what's it called? Section 98 agreement. So sometimes for certain things that you want to change in the condo, you actually have to get permission from the condominium board, and then certain things will be registered on title. But if these changes are made without an agreement, that could be an issue, right? So usually it'll say if there's been an agreement that has been registered, if there's any what's it called? Electronic vehicles installation, the chargers, which it might be important to some people, right?
Well, then I guess another big one is like a special assessment, right? You're going to look for that too, right? To make sure.
That's a little longer, so I'm gonna, So the next thing is obviously the reserve fund. So no matter what you're buying, if it's a condo townhouse, a condominium unit, you're always gonna look at the reserve fund. And the reserve fund, I always try to explain it to clients, just to make it easier. I always say it's like a piggy bank. Every time you're paying your common expenses, a portion of that gets put aside to the reserve fund, right? And that continues to build up, and it serves only to take care of major repairs and replacements of like the common elements, like litigation and things like that. They don't use it for just, maintaining the condo.
The common grounds or whatever,
You'll also see if there is an active special assessment, like ongoing, you'll see it there usually, So having said that, together, along with that, you obviously want to make sure the reserve fund is healthy. So, I mean, with condos, it should be high. 800, $1 million. I've seen 2 million.
Even on a new one, like a new one,
new ones
will be
slowly,
low, right?
because it starts at zero. New ones, it's a new building. I mean, there shouldn't be that much to repair, but it's always, they always have how much they're collecting from each person, and it'll build slowly. But if you're talking about a 10, 20-year-old condo and the reserve fund is like 100,000, or like I've seen negative 50,000 or something like that, like be careful, right? You have to, because if something happens, let's say, okay, let me go back and just say for condos, usually there's reserve fund studies every couple of years. And and the purpose of that, I guess, is just to kind of look to see the status, I guess, of the building. The engineers will take into consideration what has to be repaired and replaced over the next, 50 years, how much they're going to need, including inflation, for those repairs at the time. And based on that study, the condo board will usually say, okay, in 5 years, we have to repair the roof. It's going to cost, $1 million. So we have to make sure we have this amount in the reserve fund. So we have to make sure we're increasing the reserve fund each year by 2.5%, 5%, whatever it is, right?
Amount, right.
So you want to essentially look at the reserve fund study and see based on the year that the engineer, I don't know, 2024, they expected it to have $1 million. You look at the actual reserve fund, how much is in it? Is it higher than that, which is great? Is it lower than that? Then there might be a little bit of an issue. Like, why is it lower? Like, why is it so much lower than what they anticipated? Because ultimately, as much as it's nice, if everything happened perfectly, which, it's going to be 5 years, the roof will deteriorate, and then the walls need to be redone, and then the parking. Sometimes things happen.
Yeah, sometimes there's a leak in the roof, and then it damages stuff, and then they have to go into the reserve fund, right? Yeah.
And if there's not enough in that reserve fund, what's going to happen? They're going to come after the unit owners. They're going to say, hey, we don't have enough. So one of the options they have is to say, hey, you know what's going to happen? You guys are all going to have to contribute X amount on top of your common expenses, right? And I've had somebody where there was a repair in the parking lot. It was, I guess it couldn't wait anymore. So it ended up being, I think, a $38,000 expense to each individual unit owner that they did. Yeah, yearly it was like lump sums of like $7,000, $6,000. Like, it was crazy, right?
Yeah. And so, and that, what I wanted to say there quickly is, like, sometimes people have a budget of like 400 or 450 for a condo, and they come to us and they're like, well, I see this place and this place. And when I look at it, 9 times out of 10, depending on the location, but if it's a lower priced condo, I usually feel like it's because there's either a special assessment or the building isn't run well, and that's why people are selling, but they can't sell, and the price is low. So you can own, but just be prepared that you may have to then pay more out of your pocket for special assessments and stuff, right? So I mean, it's not like the building is like you can't live in it. It's just like you're probably going to be dishing out more money than a well-run business, and the value might not increase as much, right? Yeah.
And the last thing I think for the status, or for, I guess when you say status certificate, but it's status certificate and all the other documents that come our way, right? Like the whole package.
The whole package.
Yeah. I mean, I also like to see who can be a director or on the board of directors. And sometimes you see that the board of directors doesn't even have to have a unit in the building, which I think is crazy because they have no skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
Like, for any decisions that are being made, like, they're not going to be affected by it. So I think that's kind of odd that certain condos allow that. I think you should be a unit owner to,
for sure,
be on the board. But I know I always kind of look for that just to see.
Because then even too, like, I know I've heard of things where, they put in people, they refer people to fix things, and they get money in the back end, and there's a lot of stuff that can be shady that goes on. But I've heard a lot of situations where I prefer where you pay the lump sum instead of your maintenance fees going up, because as maintenance fees increase over time, it'll bring down your payment, the value of your condo. Whereas with the lump sum, if you decide to sell it, you could say, look, I'll pay the rest of the special assessment off, and then at least someone can get it free and clear, and then they can move forward with that. So there's different ways to do that, but that's
which we've done before,
a lot to know with that, and that's probably just a tip of the iceberg there. But that's another great topic, and if you have more questions, again, message myself or Michelle, and I'm sure she'd be happy to answer. I guess the final thing that I want to have while Michelle is here with us today, and thank you for your time, is basically, what's some advice you can give to someone purchasing a property, whether it's a home or a condo? Is there advice you can give to them, like on about buying, or on what to look for, or choosing a lawyer?
I think number one is, because I don't see clients until things are purchased usually, unless it's like a private deal. So number one is get a good agent. I think it's so true. I think people are so quick to be like, they just focus on the numbers and like, how much commission does this person get? How much commission does that person get? And what are you going to offer me if I retain you? Are you going to give me money back? And it's so ridiculous. If you are honest to God. I mean, I work with so many realtors, so I see the good and the bad, and honestly, you pay for what you get. So if you're getting an agent, you have how many years experience now? Like,
it's my 20th year, so it's been a while. It's been around the block a few times.
Yeah, so with experience, you've seen certain things happen. You've gone through experiences, issues with the lawyers, so you know how to better protect your clients later on, right? Whereas if you're a new agent, you just put the standard clauses. You're not able to think like 10 steps ahead because you've never been in that situation, right? So number one would be definitely a really good realtor, and go by referrals or something. Don't just go on a Google search or go by number. So number one, somebody who will be able to go to the showing with you, kind of help you see certain things that you wouldn't ordinarily see. That's number one. And who's going to be there for you even after you sign that agreement. You know, it just makes me so upset when you sign the agreement, it goes to the lawyer, and that's it. The agent is like, I'm done my part, I'm good. That's not, you know, to me, that's no good, because there's times where I might not get into touch with the lawyer. I might not be able to get in touch with the lawyer. I've had actually a file where there was a big flood in the basement and the lawyer didn't get back until the closing day. And in that case, I had to rely on the agent to be like, hey, can you at least try and contact the other agent? Let's try and resolve something as much as we can, or, you know, try and get inspectors in there, stuff like that. So you want someone who, again, is going to kind of be there for you the whole entire duration of the transaction. The second thing is, obviously, don't skip your inspections. Do your inspections and try, if it's not an investment property, if it's like not a vacant unit, I should say, go in close to the end after the seller moved all their stuff out, because that's when you can really see things better, if they damaged anything, if there's any issues. So use that inspection. Don't just sit back. Again, we talked about what happens if you don't catch things before closing. What else? Obviously get pre-approved. You want to make sure you can qualify for the house and not have an issue down the line. Get a good lawyer, obviously. Whoever it is, I'm not just me. Any lawyer that again has experience, that again can be there for you if an issue happens, and not somebody who's going to be like, oh, I don't know what to do in this situation, or too bad, so sad type of thing. That seems
pretty good. Like, there's lots of stuff I like about the agent, because what I've learned over time is that there's a lot of stuff that I know if you go to the lawyer, they're just gonna it's either gonna get passed back on to me, or it's not worth their time. So I try to resolve that with the other agent, or with the seller and the buyer, so we don't even have to worry about little things like that. So that is really nice to hear, and I do believe that in every, I feel like if you work with a good realtor, they usually have a good lawyer, they usually have a good home inspector. So it is important to choose, good people to work with you on these transactions. So, with that being said, it comes to the end of our questions for today, but we really appreciate having you on our podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Michelle IEZZI, barrister and solicitor. She does, mostly GTA, but you can kind of, work wherever you need to work, but she mostly focuses in GTA, but she's amazing. Check her out, and thank you for being on the show today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, that was great. A lot of good, valuable information from Michelle. I'm sure a lot of people learned a lot about some of the stuff with, lawyers and what they have to go through, and what they're allowed to do and what they can't do.
From a legal perspective.
Yeah, from a legal perspective. So thank you, Michelle IEZZI, for coming on. Now, before we go, we always talk a little bit about our health. It's getting into the summer. Everyone's got a little bit of a glow and a tan on them. So, do you have anything planned for the summer, for the next few weeks? How are you keeping healthy in the summer?
I'm doing a lot of walking. I still do my hot yoga classes and my hot Pilates. And I have Kobe now. So she's a 5-month-old Aussie Doodle. So we get our steps in. We do a lot of walks by the water. She's very active. She's a great puppy. So definitely spending a lot of time outdoors, and we've had a heat wave in the last few days. It's been like 40 degrees.
So have that water. Take care of that water. I know.
Portable water bowl for the puppy.
I know. I feel like I got out on I have a blow up kayak. I got out there and I went into the water, and I still have all my limbs, so I'm good. But it was nice and cold, and been doing a little more biking. So I feel like in the summer that's great to do around our area, our neighborhood, and it's nice to get out there. We get maybe 2 months of this weather, so we need to take advantage of it. But feeling good, and getting good sleep, so it's nice.
And it's nice to even discover in our area where there's a lot of parks and walking trails. So it's good to see it in a different way when you do a bike ride, or just walk through the park and stuff like that with the dog. That's
awesome. So we're getting to the end of this episode, so I hope you enjoy. Remember, if you like what you're hearing, if you like what you're seeing, please follow us on Spotify at Real Estate Wealth Overall Health, or follow us on YouTube. We're there too. We have past episodes, and like and subscribe, because that will help us continue with all this beautiful information. So until next time, take care of your real estate,
your wealth,
and your overall health.